Dear Diary, it's me again, Charlie. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good myself. Really happy, actually. As I've wrote to you before, my father has always been against me leaving the castle. Something, demons will give you shit. Something, you're not ready for the outside world. Same story, different day. But for my birthday yesterday, my father actually let me leave the house! It was super exciting! I could have sworn I was going to have a heart attack with how excited I was. You know, the outside is darker than I thought. The sky is a really pretty gradient of deep magenta and red, with the pentagram lightly shining down on the rather cold and dark purple pavement. It kind of weirded me out that the ground had a strange pink line through it. I asked Father what they were, and he told me it was just lava going through them. Isn't that crazy? What's the pavement made of? Ooh, I can't wait to find out more about how Pride works. I got to walk with Mr. Buxo, one of my father's bodyguard imps around the town. And easy to say, I was so mesmerized with my surroundings. The buildings were a purplish gray that lay in front of distant black towers with a mellow yellow light protruding from the windows. I could smell various smells too as we walked. My nose was twitching like a cute little bunny rabbit. So many smells! Some were really good, like the smell of homemade food or freshly clean laundry. It's my favorite when the laundry comes out and it's like super warm and you just snuggle against it. Oh, it's the best feeling in the world. While others I definitely could have done without, like smoke and a strange smell coming from one of the street, what did Father call them again? Sluts? I saw one on the side of the road looking rather sad. Maybe he was having an off day? He was really pretty though. A cream white spider demon with fluffy white hair with pink polka dots that I think are freckles? I'm not used to spider demons only having 2 eyes though. Maybe something happened to him. Bad client, maybe? He also smelled of smoke, but not like the smoke I've smelled before. It was more... how do I describe it? Kind of a lustful smell? Are there different types of smoke smells? I wanted to ask Mr. Buxo about the spider demon, but he insisted we get moving before something bad happens. Maybe next time I'll find out more. Mr. Buxo continued to show me around the town, going on from time to time about his past job as a circus entertainer before he and his wife were recruited to work with my father. A circus! Can you believe it? I've read about those from my books. I could feel my feet want to fly off the ground with all the excited questions I wanted to ask him. I saw a rather prideful smile on his face as I just bursted out my thousands upon thousands of questions. I'm glad he was a good sport about it, at least. He actually humored me with some of the questions he could understand. I learned so many new things. Today is such a great birthday. While we were wandering more towards the west side of the ring, a rather curious smell caught my attention. It was a flowery smell, I know that much, but it was a rather sharp but pleasant smell. I could feel my eyes were darting around to where the smell could have been coming from. I could feel the finger from Mr. Buxo pressed against my right cheek. He asked me if I was all right or if this place was getting to me. I could hear the concern in his voice. It was actually kind of soothing. But I told him that everything was all right. I just smelled something unusual, but not the bad kind of unusual. It was really pleasant. I told him that it kind of reminded me of my mother. It was pleasant, but sharp. Was that a good way to describe the smell? I have no idea, and apparently he didn't either. He asked me where the smell was coming from, so I told him I think it was that way. I found myself pointing towards a rather scary-looking side of the town. I glanced over to Mr. Buxo, who had this rather irritable but concerned expression, as he rested his hand on my shoulder and explained what that place was. He told me it was some place called Cannibal County, where demons who eat their own ilk live. I should say here that I was kind of shocked that demons would eat their own, but then I remembered. Oh yeah, this is hell. Anything can happen. Maybe, if I try hard enough, we can stop them from eating their own kind, and maybe even try helping them redeem themselves. I must have said that out loud because I heard a thunderous laughter coming from Mr. Buxo right after. I felt embarrassed at the time after he told me there was no way any demon would want to be redeemed. That's why they're here. I questioned him to, what if they were forced here? What if they didn't have a choice in being here? I could feel a small tinge of sadness coming from Mr. Buxo's next few words. He said that humans in the overworld can make their own choices to where they go. They can either go to heaven or come to hell. He told me stories about how he's seen humans try to stay on the path of righteousness, but somehow or some way, they'll eventually fall to themselves or the manipulation of others. While most others, like us Hellborn, have no choice. We can't be redeemed, even if we've done nothing wrong. He made a notion to me when I said that. He must have realized how sad I was getting because he stopped and looked away, apologizing for what he said. I told him it was fine. Really, it was. I have to remember that fairy tales are fairy tales for a reason. And my silly wish was just a fairy tale. I saw Mr. Buxo's eyes catch something as he grabbed my wrist rather roughly and practically dragged me towards Cannibal County. What was he doing? Was I gonna be eaten? I was gonna struggle until he let me go and my eyes caught something absolutely amazing. There were tons of these gorgeous red flowers, all lovingly growing on these bushes. I could feel my eyes sparkling as they ate up all of the beautiful scenery. I asked Mr. Buxo what these were called. He told me he didn't have a clue, but he knew I liked flowers, so he dragged me here. I always did appreciate his honesty, and I think my father did too. I hesitantly walked over to one of the brightest red flowers that were there, but a faint smell of something like copper or iron caught my attention. You're probably wondering how I know what that kind of smell is like, right? Well, you can thank Mr. Baxter for that. Oh! I haven't wrote to you that we got a new scientist, have I? Well, his name is Mr. Baxter. He's from Envy. Apparently, Father hired him because Mr. Baxter is working on something that will make even God fear him. I don't quite know what he means, but I can't wait to find out. But anyway, as I went to pick up the flower, I found myself looking a little to the side of it. What I saw kind of freaked me out a little, but at the same time, I felt a little comforted. Isn't that strange? It was like a strange black liquid. I picked up the flower, but something else came up with it. It was a gorgeous red stag. I've never seen one in real life before. He was really tall, too. I was surprised he could fit in the bushes. He was a rather regal-looking stag. His antlers were as big as me. Remember how I told you about the new Helsley movie I saw? Danby? The stag kind of reminded me of the Great Prince from that movie. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. He was incredible. His crimson eyes kept focused on mine before I could feel the flower being taken from my hands. It caused me to flinch a little. I wasn't expecting that. I watched as the regal stag then placed the flower in my hair. He was really smart, too. I didn't know stags were able to do that outside of fairy tales. I don't know why, but I could feel my cheeks become warm as the stag did that. His movements were so suave for a deer. Almost like there was more to him that he was leading on. I turned to look at Mr. Buxo to see if he was admiring the stag as well, but he seemed rather on edge about this creature. I asked him if everything was all right, and he just stayed silent. I was so confused. It was just a stag, right? The only time I ever recall seeing Mr. Buxo look this on edge was when he was in a fight with my father. Then, maybe this red stag was leading on to more than it was. I turned my head to look at the stag once more. To my shock and surprise, the pupils on the stag changed. It was crazy. It was no longer round and similar to a sheep's eye, but it was more akin to a radio dial. After that, I could feel my body tense up as I heard very uncomfortable static echo throughout the area. I felt Mr. Buxo grab my wrist rather aggressively once more, but he also grabbed a small pistol from his pocket. I wanted to ask what was going on, but my voice and sense of self was completely muted after hearing the gun go off. Was feeling of just being lost in time. It all happened so fast. But after I reopened my eyes, I heard a rather muffled, almost as if we were underwater, but protective Mr. Buxo scream at me to run. The moment my senses came back, I saw the stag before us, bleeding heavily onto the ground with each staggered step it took toward us. The scarier part was the gunshot didn't seem to faze the stag at all. I finally gained the feeling in my legs to run with Mr. Buxo back to the castle, occasionally looking back from time to time, but then I was just too afraid. I was so scared, Diary. What even was that stag? Why did his pupils change? And what was with that static it gave off? There's so much more to Pride that I don't understand. Maybe someday I'll be able to uncover its secrets for myself. Whew. Well, thanks for letting me write again. I can't wait to tell you about my day tomorrow. Love always, Charlie Morningstar, Princess of Hell. P.S. Did we always have a vintage radio in my room and I just never realized?